Hi everyone, I'm RCR's Catherine Speglia-Nin, and I'm pleased to introduce Spirent's Anil Kollipara, who will walk us through today's presentation on automating the entire network lifecycle. But before I hand things over, a quick reminder to submit your questions at any time. We'll address as many of those as we can during the Q&A at the end. All right, Anil, over to you.
Thanks, Catherine. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to talk about the topic today, which is about automating the entire lifecycle with AI. My name is Anil Kollipara. I'm the VP of Product for Test and Automation at Spirent Communications. So let's get started. So before jumping into AI, let's talk about some of the background, the changes that has occurred in our industry, and how that shapes some of the challenges or some of the solutions we're going to talk about. So we went from a physical world in the 3G days, and then into a virtualized world for the 4G days. And when it comes to 5G, we are in a cloud-native environment where there is further disaggregation, and there's disaggregation between the software and hardware and the layers between in the networking stack that basically delivers the services that we are used to. Now, what has that done to the industry from a ownership perspective? So if you think about, and traditionally, with the 3G and 4G, majority of that, the responsibility, the system integration, or the responsibility to test and put the network together and make sure that everything is working, rely with the vendors or the network equipment manufacturers. But with the disaggregation, it has given the benefit of the vendors to choose multi-vendor ecosystem, and getting the best of the breed from each of the stack point of view. But the ownership of putting everything together now falls to the service providers, who are the operators. And these operators, by the way, when you say service providers in the world of telco, this could be communication service providers. In the world of enterprises, this could be the enterprise operators that are delivering some kind of a service to their end customers. And if you look at the challenges between the traditional the vendors and the operators, it is important to note that in addition to putting this network together, the main responsibility or the challenges of the operator is to make sure that the service is ready and their end customers enjoy the services that they are delivering, the quality of service, and so on. But at the same time, given it takes a significant effort to put the network together, the operational complexity, and also the fact that there's regulatory compliance in terms of making sure that the service doesn't break and does not impact the end subscribers. That ownership and that responsibility lies with the service providers, and that's a challenge that they need to address. So if you look at some of the data dating back to almost a decade and a half, and Spirent tracks this very closely, you can clearly see that the ownership of testing shifted hands between, it used to be 80% NAMs, and now it's 80% service providers or operators. So once again, 5G, like I mentioned, because of the disaggregation and all the different pieces coming together from a complex multi-vendor ecosystem, the responsibility to put that together falls on the operators. And 5G inherently, 5G SA specifically, has more number of elements, more number of moving parts, more number of use cases or test cases. And because they are software in nature, the number of updates and upgrades happening to these network elements is increasing significantly. So when you combine all of these together, the networks today are 150x more complex than legacy networks. And the only way to address or manage this operational complexity is through continuous testing and continuous automation or total automation. And if you look at some of the surveys done recently, that is the shift that we are seeing, that the operators are implementing or employing or planning to employ an automation pipeline to get over the operational complexity. And if you look at the stats here, 67% or 2/3 of the customers expect to implement a CI/CD pipeline in the next 12 to 24 months. So that trend is already in place. So when we look at a CI/CD pipeline or an automation pipeline, this is a very traditional automation pipeline where you're planning your features, you're developing the code, you're building that into an application, you're testing that application, and once you have tested, you then release that application into the production network, you deploy it, you operate it, and then you monitor and you assure it. Right, that's the typical life cycle. But when you look at some of the pain points that still exist today, right? Those, and I'm going to pick one use case here. There are many pain points in this whole journey, but especially when something fails, when you're testing it or when you're monitoring it, that means that the service is running and something fails. The process of getting to the bottom of it, right? The whole root cause analysis is a very painstaking and tedious process. Even with an automation cycle put in place, when something fails, somebody has to collect that artifacts, process them. They need to diagnose them. They need to consult expertise, or this could be standards or documentation. They need to reproduce that issue. They need to then do a root cause analysis, understanding what really caused that issue, right? And they need to come up with a remediation plan and then document it and so on. If we look at that workflow is very tedious. Some of these steps are extremely complex, especially with the multi-domain, multi-vendor networks. We see, if the issue occur, is it because of cloud? Is it because of security? Is it because of the 3GPP? Is it because of performance? Understanding this across domain in network is becoming more and more complex. And today, this can take several weeks to get to the bottom of it. And think about the impact that has. So this is another survey that talks about the customers thinking where generative AI or AI in general could be helpful. And the number one area that has been identified is this area, which is root cause analysis. That means when something fails in a complex environment, how do I get to the bottom of it as quickly as possible? And this is where it has been, the industry has identified AI can help really well, right? And there is a reason for that, and we'll get into that very quickly. And the fact that the other factor that is impacting this is that there's a significant skill set shortages, and there's skill set shortages because, again, of the multi-domains, right? There's 5G, there's cloud, there's security and AI and so on. The fact that this adds on to the cognitive overload of the operations of the engineering team. Having technologies like AI can really help improve the whole process and assist and improve the efficiency of this whole troubleshooting process. So if you look at AI, there are we've been using AI, the traditional AI, which is machine learning, for a while now. That existed for some time, and it's been widely used. Then we have a slew of Gen AI assistants, which are helping, in a conversational way, answer and address some of the questions that the customers may have, and do certain process certain things that are tedious in nature. But the far right, which is the agentic AI, which is basically, you may ask the question, what's the difference between agentic AI and Gen AI? The primary difference is that agentic AI is specifically executing a complete workflow, right? That may involve the Gen AI aspect of it, but also involve certain other steps that need to be executed to complete the entire workflow. And that's where we have an opportunity to further improve the whole process of testing and assuring, and especially when it applies to root cause analysis. So if you look at, again, let's go back to the CI/CD pipeline. And if you look at, when something fails, whether when you're testing the infrastructure or whether you're assuring and monitoring the services, the task of collecting the artifacts all the way from that to providing a remediation plan and communicating that can be completely executed through agentic AI. And we've seen that, using agentic AI to automate this can significantly reduce the timelines. It can take what used to take weeks can be done in minutes. So if you look at some of the examples, right, this is a real case where a customer opened a ticket and on October 7th. And the usual process when something fails and the customer opens a ticket is it goes through a layer 1 support, then it goes to layer 2, layer 3 support where there's more expertise and they're doing the troubleshooting. And then if they are not able to do it, they consult with the R&D. There's so much interaction happening between these teams. Sometimes people are on vacation. There is delays in the response, or sometimes the customer may be asked to provide additional information. In this particular scenario, the entire root cause analysis took about 7 weeks from the time it was open, a ticket was open, to the time a remediation plan was provided to the customer. But again, this is because there are tedious tasks that the customer has to do, or there are manual steps that are involved with people and communication that takes much longer today. And all of that can be significantly reduced by using agentic AI. In this example, the same information was fed to an agentic AI tool, and it was able to solve and get to the bottom of it in 2 minutes. It gave you the exact answer that the final remediation plan provided because it was able to process all that information, collecting those artifacts, processing that information that includes PCAPs, logs, KPIs, understanding that this is related to a 3GPP call flow problem, it is related to some kind of a configuration problem or performance problem, and coming back with a quick root cause analysis so that the customer understands that very quickly and take an action appropriately. So this is kind of an example of where agentic AI can significantly improve the efficiency of the entire process. Lastly, summarizing, the benefits of using AI, especially agentic AI, in these tedious workflows are very, very solid, right? We can expect a significant improvement in time to value. Automation in general has improved it, but some of these other steps or workflows that are very tedious in nature that require this agentic AI capability can further take that to a different level. And as we've seen, 75% reduction in time it takes to complete or time to value of anything that you are doing. The fact that now you are using all your equipment, your CapEx, your infrastructure much more efficiently. When, let's say, some issue comes up and you are not using that infrastructure, it is sitting there idle. The time is, it could be engineers' time that could be, that they are waiting and that nothing's happening. So the fact that agentic AI can do all of these repetitive tasks, it significantly improves the efficiencies of the people, of the infrastructure, and so on. And lastly, the fact that you can now do much more with much less, it delivers significant overall productivity gains. And we're seeing 90% productivity gains in certain workflows that I've kind of used by leveraging agentic AI and automation together. So this is something very solid, very valuable, and by carefully understanding the workflows where you think today there isn't a good a solution, or it takes much more time, it's much more tedious, you can use a combination of AI and automation to make this completely automated and bring that whole efficiency up significantly and improve your operations. And I'm open for any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Anil. So maybe you can start by kind of summarizing for us, like, what makes your agentic AI approach different from basic LLMs?
Yeah, that's a question that keeps coming up very often. The key difference here is that basic LLMs are being, trained on certain data. They may be trained on some general data, and they provide some information that may be relevant and may not be relevant. They can hallucinate, but they may not be providing you a very targeted response. That's one. And the second thing is that to get to a workflow, executing a workflow, it may be more than just an LLM response, right? You may have to go and fetch some data. You may have to process certain data. You may have to do certain steps that has nothing to do with LLM or AI, but that they need to be done in a sequence as a workflow to get to the end game. And that's where agentic AI is different, which is it is executing an entire workflow versus just responding to the questions that you're asking. It is part of it, but the goal is executing the workflow.
Yeah, which sounds great, but how does this work in like a multi-vendor, multi-domain environment?
Yeah, the good thing is that, especially the way we are looking at it, is these are all standards based. So that means it doesn't matter whether it's vendor one versus vendor two. The training of this agentic system is based on standards and based on documentation, especially for someone like Spirent that is vendor independent. This is, we train it in a way that it is independent and can work with any multi-vendor environment as long as they're conforming to the standards. And that's why this solution can work in any multi-vendor environment.
Okay. And we have a great audience question here. What will be the approach that enterprises take to adopt agentic AI for CI/CD? Will they build these capabilities internally or rely on external service providers?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of that. And first and foremost, you have to identify the exact workflow that you want to automate with or leverage AI for. And one thing is to note is that a lot of the agentic workflow relies on your domain expertise, your own infrastructure, documentation, domain expertise, KPIs, and so on. So you can leverage a lot of the information and expertise that you have, but complement and supplement that with some other vendor-provided solutions, especially when it comes to things that, that's something that you don't develop, that you don't own, like, using a testing solution. You can combine these things with your own domain expertise and build an agentic AI solution.
Yeah. And as they're doing this, how does this integrate with the existing CI/CD environment?
Yeah, the great thing is this is all incremental, right? So the starting point for this solution is having a CI/CD pipeline. Step one, so getting that implemented in place. And then once you implement that, this is agentic AI. This step is something that you layer on top of it. So as I said, when you have the CI/CD pipeline implemented, and then when something fails, right, that starts the agentic AI process. So it comes into the picture when something fails and automatically triggers an AI-enabled or AI-based workflow to get to the bottom of it, where it gives you root cause analysis. It gives you all the artifacts that are related to that root cause analysis, something that you need to share with the teams that are going to work on fixing the issue. And you can put that into your automation flow where information is sent, or it could be an email that could be sent to the team based on the outcome of that root cause analysis. So it starts with building the automation pipeline first and having this agentic AI as a layer that you can easily add on top of that.
Okay, we are at time. So Anil, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you everyone for joining. Enjoy the rest of the event. We have a lot left.
Thank you.